Good morning. I bring you greetings early this January with a story of how I ended my 2010. On New Year's Eve, my family and I went to the Chick-fil-A Bowl, and as we were walking up the street with thousands of other people going to the Dome, there were two men in the street that were clearly street preachers. One had a Bible and was sort of shouting a bit, and I first noticed him. And then as I looked over to my right, there was a man standing holding a cross that was about 5 feet tall. It was a plain cross painted white, but on the crossbar, facing the cross, on the left it said God loves, and on the right it said God hates. That struck me in actually a rather violent way, and as Richard and I walked on past, I said, "Richard, did you see that cross and the message on it?" And he said, "Yes, it's rather sad, isn't it?" And as we walked a little further, I said, "Richard, I have to go back and say something to that man." And he tried to talk me out of it, but he knew me well enough that he didn't put too much effort into it. I finally went back and went to the man, and in a kind way, with gentle words, I began and said, "I'd like to talk to you." And he said, "Okay." And I said, "I'm Penny Hill, and I'm a Presbyterian minister." And he immediately began to verbally assault me. He started shouting at me, saying, "You're evil, you're wicked." And I actually thought it was because I was Presbyterian and thought perhaps he had a negative view of our denomination. It turned out it was because I was an ordained woman. But I was so taken aback by his response that I really didn't know what to say back to him. So I said, "I'm concerned about the message that is on this cross, that the cross is supposed to tell people of the love of God, and here you have a message on the cross that says God hates." So he began to shout at me about how I didn't know the Bible and that God does hate, and if I read the Bible I would know that God hates. About that time, Richard came up beside me because I think he was getting worried, and he told the man that he was my husband and that in fact, yes, we did both know the Bible. At which point the man began to assault Richard with telling him how evil and wicked he was to be married to me. So Richard started sort of trying to drag me away, and the man was still shouting over his shoulder at me that I was wicked and evil, and I began to shout back at him that he was sick, and Richard began to pray that the peace of God would enter this man's heart and probably mine as well. But as I walked away, I began to think about how really disturbing it was that someone in the street witnessing to tens of thousands of people would be giving a message on the cross that's supposed to represent the peace of Jesus Christ that God hates. And as I thought about the message of the PCUSA and of our particular presbytery and our new structure, I really wanted to share with you that the Presbytery of Greater Atlanta's hope in the future is that we will help our churches grow in health and vitality so that we have a louder voice about the saving grace and the unconditional love of God as we know it through Jesus Christ. We want to be shouting that from the tops of churches all over the city and beyond, sharing the love of Jesus Christ. We want our presbytery office to move from being focused on telling churches and ministers what they can and can't do to opening up the ministry of the love and saving grace of Jesus Christ. So we hope in this new year that you will invite us, the Presbytery of Greater Atlanta, into your churches to be your partners so that together we can spread the love of the gospel of Jesus Christ.